Welcome back to Dan Abrams Live. I'm Brian Enton sitting in tonight for Dan. Across the country, it has become a common occurrence to see outbursts in public meetings go viral, and it has become routine that the primary victims of the harassment and the abuse are local officials like this.
Your children and your children's children will be subjugated. They will be asked, how many vaccines have you had? Have you been a good little Nazi?
You're a coward. I will not sit down. I won't comply. You guys are cowards.
You should be embarrassed and ashamed with the agenda that all of you are letting happening in this town.
Man, that guy with the dreadlocks, I almost forgot about him. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about local policy and how cities and towns can move forward in the best way. And there's nothing wrong with civil debate, even if at times it's heated. But what we're seeing is political grandstanding, purely for outrage rather than common sense solutions. Finally, one state is trying to put a stop to the madness, and in just a moment, the lawmakers who spearheaded the legislation will join me to discuss. California Governor Gavin Newsom this week signed State Senate Bill 1100 into law, which gives lawmakers in California the tools to take back control when meetings get out of hand. The legislation, which updates a 1953 law, gives the presiding member over a public meeting the right to, quote, remove or cause the removal of an individual for disrupting the meeting. The bill, except as provided, would require removal to be preceded by a warning to the individual. The bill defines disrupting as, quote, engaging in behavior during a meeting of a legislative body that actually disrupts, disturbs, impedes, or renders infeasible the orderly conduct of the meeting. That includes noncompliance with local regulations or, quote, engaging in behavior that constitutes use of force or a true threat of force. It passed the state Senate by a vote of 28-9, with all the yes votes coming from Democrats and all of the no votes coming from Republicans. California State Senator Brian Jones, who opposed the bill, tweeting, "This shameful bill restricts the ability of parents to freely speak up and fight for their kids at public school board meetings." The inspiration for the legislation coming from the California town of Los Gatos, who has had success controlling their town meetings since passing a law after protesters shut down a council meeting this fall, targeting the town's then mayor and her son, who is gay.
Just because your son turned out gay does not mean
Mr. Schultz, this is inappropriate.
Authority.
That's how I feel when my son is attacked. I have to pull my son from school because he's not safe on the freaking hallway.
I'm calling a recess for 5 minutes.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Wow. And the state had seen threats of violence. An example in December when a man was arrested for threatening to shoot people during Santa Clara Valley transportation meeting. Republicans have the right to advocate for everyone's voice to be heard, but something obviously needs to change. The status quo, it's just not working. You've seen the meetings. It's not a one city issue, a one state issue, or even a one coast issue. It's really happening across the country. Pure chaos is prevailing, and many of those who just want to better their home, they're the ones losing. Look, people even get violent, start punching and stuff. Joining us now, the state senator and assembly member who together wrote and sponsored the bill, Senator Dave Cortese, who represents California's 15th district, and Assembly Member Evan Low, who represents California's 28th district. Senator Cortese, I want to start with you. I mean, everyone should be able to watch what's been happening in these local meetings and agree that it seems like something has to be done.
Well, we felt something did have to be done, and Assemblymember Low and I convened almost immediately after the Los Gatos incident. And the first thing we did, and I like to think of ourselves as good listeners, is we listened to the town manager and her comments, and asked us, when she asked us, is there something you can do to clarify the rules to make things more efficient and when these kind of situations come up? And we did, and that's what the bill does. I thought you did a good job of indicating where the changes are based on the 50-year-old law that we were trying to modify. And I think we did a pretty good job of avoiding viewpoint discrimination or even viewpoint regulation. There's no content-based regulation in here. You can come in and say whatever you want after Senate Bill 1100. What you can't do is occupy the space, block other people from saying things, either by stealing the microphone, taking over, in other ways, obstructing people, and that's all very clearly defined.
Yeah, I mean, the intentions seem good. Assemblymember Low, one concern seems to be the definition of disruptive. I mean, it does seem subjective, and depending who the legislator is in charge, who gets to make the call, isn't it possible that they could just try to kick someone out that they don't agree with?
No, the answer is flat out no. The bill sets minimum standards to ensure that we define the willful interruption, which is that of a meeting that is then deemed in unorderly conduct, as well as ensuring that there is a warning prior to that individual to be removed for this disorderly conduct, which renders this public meeting unorderly. So what's important, though, is that we reflect the type of free speech. And the clips that you showed would still, frankly, be allowed, but with significant limitations to ensure that everyone gets their fair say and to ensure that all are protected and feel safe in that environment. And frankly, also that the public officials, many of them who are volunteering their times, are not subjected to the type of bullying and harassments, even unfortunately at their places of residence.
Oh yeah, and it gets violent, and sometimes these meetings go all night long because people become so disruptive and they have to pause them. But one thing I was wondering is, I've covered school board meetings where people are disruptive and they'll get dragged out by a police officer, and this, special law doesn't exist. So how is this different than what's happening now? Because they drag people out now sometimes.
You saw in the clips, a couple situations that were so disorderly that it would be hard to imagine the presiding officer or the board itself, the council, conducting a parliamentary vote. And when you can no longer conduct a parliamentary vote, a motion, a second, all in favor, please say aye. When you can't get that far because the meeting is being impeded, it becomes, under the old Brown Act, the Brown Act that we just modified, impossible to remove somebody, because the old act said that the body itself has to vote and make a decision to have that person removed. And one of the very simple changes we made is we said the presiding officer has to have the power to do that in those situations and do it in a way that keeps everybody safe.
Assemblyman Low, what do you make of the fact that no Republicans voted for this? Because again, having covered meetings like this, I've seen both Democrats and Republicans probably equally act out in these meetings in an inappropriate way. So why no Republican support?
I'm disheartened. There's no other way to say it. I'm completely disheartened to see that this should have been a bipartisan bill, unanimously supported, to help ensure that we have free speech in a safe, democratic way in which we conduct the people's business. And again, the specific language, as you've outlined on the specifics, creates the specific safeguards to allow for mechanisms for the warning, for the facilitation of a vote, and for individuals to best hear what is actually happening. But in those clips, you cannot have a meeting occur in which the individuals are hearing what is happening and a vote is being happening and what we are voting on. So again, this provides the framework to allow for everyone to have their fair say.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.